All right, folks, welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at Bet Online and number 38. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am so excited to be joined by my guy, Swipa Cam, on the other side. Swipa, how you doing, my friend?
Just hanging out with you a little earlier than I thought we would, but living. Enjoying this hot weather, and the AC isn't on, so it is steaming in here. It would be nice to have the AC on every so often, but yeah, it's been good. Atlanta's living, Denver's living. I feel like I'm doing better than the Nuggets are right now.
How is it possible to operate in Atlanta without the AC? Like that seems well
ludicrous. Because the AC bill in Atlanta can fluctuate. Like my place, it's pretty static, and I got a deal that I put in. Like it's consistently 105.
Yeah.
But like if you live in some other place like a home or whatever, and then the bill goes up. But that's, also if you're running a bunch of trap music and stuff all the time and like got people running in and out the house, then that's why your bill be crazy high. Keep throwing parties and whatnot. But I can't speak to that.
Oh, you can't? Okay. Yeah. I see.
No. Okay. All right. It's live.
It's good to see you, my friend. We actually haven't spoken in a little bit here.
Whose fault is that?
It's I think we could both have shared.
No. I called you, literally called you, and you didn't call me back.
You know what? That is true. That was the night of the loss on Sunday night. And we were going to talk, and then things got all out of whack, as they often do.
Right,
and
emotional.
Just had a lot of shit to go over. So we're going to go over it now. We're going to go over some of this. We're going to talk about the presser from yesterday, of Josh Kroenke, Calvin Booth, Michael Malone, all speaking about the future of the Denver Nuggets. And there's a lot to obviously discuss there. And then we're going to talk about some of the key factors in this offseason, what you're looking for, what I'm looking for. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But first, got to tell everybody about our friends over at Bet Online, the number one source for the NBA and NHL playoffs this season. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to their online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and get in on the action. Don't forget to use promo code BELIEVE for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, the game starts here. All right, Cam, let's get into this. This is going to be an interesting discussion. I was at the presser yesterday. Obviously, you're in Atlanta, but you got to watch it. You got to see it. You got to hear all of the different comments that were being made. I'll give you the floor unless you'd like me to sort of direct here. Just what stood out in your mind from the presser, various comments? I've got some quotes that I can share. But what was your general impression of how the Nuggets handled it yesterday?
Yeah, I think some of this is Calvin. Ever since the Kevin O'Connor article came out, Calvin and Malone having a differing opinion on the team. It's clear. Calvin said last year, we're not trying to win back-to-back. I want to win 3-6, 3-7, something like that. Cool. He called himself the steward of the Nikola Jokic era, which he is. I think the thing is that watching that, Malone took the blame for overworking the starters. And he talks about the rest, the lack of rest. Even AG talked about the exhaustion that they felt. But I think some of this is, I think they got to get on the same page with what exactly is happening here. And I think some of this is Calvin. I think Calvin, because of the CBA agreement, which is not all his fault, he looked at it and said, Brown, Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, Hunter Tyson, Jalen Pickett. This is the way that you build a new CBA.
Yeah.
But if you look at the Boston Celtics, Ryan, you look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, Ryan, you look at all these teams, they went and got veterans that are cheap but young, and they took a risk on the perimeter. Like Nickeil Alexander-Walker was a throw-in, but I told you for a year and a half, Ryan Blackburn, why he would be such a good fit.
Yeah,
I told you why players like Chris Dunn, because there's a certain thing the Nuggets need, and you need older players that are still young enough to be in their prime and develop, but you get them at a younger price tag. Derek White, Vando, Bruce Brown, KCP, those are Aaron Gordon. Those are players that the Nuggets, the Celtics, and other teams have gotten that have helped them to take these leaps because they've gotten younger players that are veterans and know how to win and they know how to play basketball, but you don't have to develop them. But you get them on cheap contract, get them in your system, and you can pay them more as time goes on. I just think that Calvin Booth, if you think Hunter Tyson, Jalen Pickett, and Julian Strawther, for me, Ryan, are the answers between the Nuggets having a foray of young, athletic shooters who can help you win playoff games, for me, that just seems like a little bit like kind of what the Warriors did with the 2 timelines thing. Now, here's the thing. The Nuggets starters weren't good enough in that series versus the Wolves.
Yeah.
That's why they lost. So I'm going to be clear about this. But they lost because they were, as Malone said, they were exhausted. They were burnt out from the end of the season into the playoffs. But I do think that the thing I do have a little bit of issue with Calvin is I think you just have to at some point look at the overall, like, and again, somebody else, Stefan brought it up. We both were big on this deal.
Yeah.
We both said something. The day it happened, we got done shooting. It dropped. We did an episode on it because that's the kind of stuff that you need. And he ended up getting the 7 most minutes in the series, I think.
Pretty sure he had the highest plus minus on the series for Denver.
He did. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I think some of that though, bro, is like those are the players you win with that know how to play basketball. I just don't think, man, that like I just think Calvin have this thing in his brain a little bit where I think you got to like see you got Bruce Brown and KCP, and you also drafted Christian. But it doesn't matter if you don't have KCP and Bruce. Like, you got older veteran players who've been in the playoffs before, and then you got this dude who's a winner and just has a dog in him. And then you had Jeff Green. So you had like a rotation of role players that was just like monstrosities. And then I think this year it's like they just got a little bit too caught in like, well, let's just kind of draft and see how it goes. And then at the end of the year, Malone's talking about he didn't play the young guys enough, but I'm also with Malone a little bit. Like, well, who are you going to play? Jalen Pickett? I think they should have played Jalen Pickett more over Colin. But if he wasn't ready to play over Collins Gillespie, that just shows you where Jalen is.
Yeah, it's all great points. I could not agree more on that. And I was pretty argumentative. Actually, you know what? Because Denver had won a championship, I didn't make as much of a stink about the draft as I probably needed to. But Denver deciding that they wanted to go with 3 rookies on guaranteed contracts, and that just being the way that they handled that, you already added DeAndre Jordan, and then they lose Vlatko Čančar to an injury. And your bench is suddenly like, okay, you've gone from 10 guys that you could potentially use in a playoff series to 5. And Denver had different players, but the big issue in my eyes was that he put a lot of stock into developing 3 players: Christian Braun, Peyton Watson, and Zeke Naji. And by the end of the series, by the end of the time that Denver actually had those guys available, and like against the Minnesota Timberwolves, only one of those guys was playing because Michael Malone felt that only one of them gave them the best chance that they could win. Right. And I still think that Peyton Watson has a future in this league. There's no doubt about it. Like, I mean, he's going to be very, very good.
He just can't shoot or score yet.
Yeah, and like that's going to come with some time. But like, he also is one of the best defenders, best young defenders in the NBA, clearly.
Right.
Zeke Naji was an extension guy, and I remember sort of pushing back on the extension. I remember others pushing back on the extension, like he hasn't really proven much. It's money that you gave out that he hasn't really earned. And the conversation around Zeke Naji at the presser yesterday was, oh, he works hard. He's still trying to figure this out. He's still young. He's going into his 5th year, man. Like this is a tough situation for Denver to be in, and not having Vlatko or Zeke, losing Jeff Green, obviously. DeAndre Jordan's not a guy that you could really play with any consistency. Like, Denver just didn't have the size and the physicality enough in order to do what they did last year. And that was a big problem. And so I'm with you, man. I think they spent too many roster spots on players that could not play
rotation at all,
or like had no business even thinking about playing that player. And so I sympathize with Michael Malone as well. Who are you going to go to? Who are you going to try? Like, just saying that Jalen Pickett should play versus him actually deserving to play is completely different things.
And I think the biggest difference was felt in game 1 and game 7. Like the Nuggets were a close game in game 1, but then they got beat in the minutes that mattered. And I think in game 7, they hit a wall in that third quarter. That was insane. I had never seen in this era of the Nuggets where everybody looked at Joker and said, please save us.
And he put up 21 points in the second half. He tried, but he also attempted 8 threes and was gassed himself. Like everybody on the team was gassed, and Michael Malone, to a certain degree, deserves some blame for that. I don't think the Nuggets should have gone for the 1 seed in retrospect. But you can only talk about that with hindsight. You can only talk about that with saying, like, okay, maybe people were like, oh, it might bother them in the future. But like, I don't know if anybody really foresaw this level of fatigue from the team, because like these guys are just playing basketball, and it's not like they had to try that hard in the second.
And again, they got blown out by 32 and then by 45 in that series. And I think that's just, for me, it's just like, yeah, I mean, you're obviously like just in a different place. Like, and again, they just thought they could win. And that's the thing. The Nuggets were so good. Had they gotten past the Wolves, they could have won the finals. That's how good they are. But I think that's the difference. It's like they just absolutely plummeted, I think, energy-wise. And they just didn't go into the playoffs looking right versus the Lakers. They were just that much better. And then they were on par with the Wolves. But then the problem is, if you can't close it out energy-wise, and they couldn't even get stops, down the stretch of the fourth quarter. They just didn't have, like, whether it's closing out a Nas Reed, bossing out a Nas Reed, bossing out a Cat. Like, it just, the momentum wasn't there. And I think some of this is, bro, like, what I don't like about the way this stuff works, and this is my whole thing with Calvin, if I ever get a chance to talk to him one-on-one, I'll do whatever. I just think Jokic is a top 10 player ever. He's going to retire a top 10 player ever. Anytime Jokic loses, Jokic got beat by a 22-year-old. Jokic got outplayed by Anthony Edwards. Jokic got beat by this and that. Jokic got swept in 2021. Jokic lost to the bubble 4-1. That's the way it works. Murray, Porter, they're never going to catch that flag. Malone's not even going to catch that flag. So for me, Jokic gets all the shine. We don't have another player that made any award system. No KCP, all defense. No AG, all defense. They got votes. But the thing is now, bro, it's like, if Calvin truly believes that, you can't look at LeBron, Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Kobe Bryant, Hakeem Olajuwon, Tim Duncan, go through the list. You can't tell me they didn't have elite veterans that were on their rosters that knew exactly what they were supposed to do when they won those titles, multiple titles. They didn't have young players that were coming out of nowhere. Now, they might have drafted a Manu later on in the process, but even before that, even like Vinny Del Negro on them, they just had players that were just smart, knew what they were supposed to be doing. So my whole thing is, Ryan, it's like, if I'm a basketball historian and I'm watching the Celtics in the 60s and 70s, I'm watching the Lakers in the late 70s and then early 80s and mid 80s, and I'm watching the Philadelphia 76ers in the middle of those 80s runs. I'm watching the Bulls in the 90s, the Houston Rockets in the 90s, the Lakers with Rick Fox and Derek Fisher and Shaw and Harper and all those players, and even George. And then you get Lamar Odom and Paul Gasol later on. And then you get the Miami Heat. They had Norris Cole and Mario Chambers and what's the boy? The dude that played Shane Battier. Like all these players. And then you get to the Warriors, Sean Livingston, Harrison Barnes, like just having rotation, obviously Draymond, Clay, and Steph. And then you get Kevin Durant, David West, Kevin Lee. Like this is what I'm trying to figure out. You tell me if I'm tripping. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. So what is I'm trying to figure out, what is he missing relative to literally the history of basketball that you think Hunter Tyson and Jalen Pickett and Julian Strawther are the difference between what the end of this year was and what changes next year? I just truly cannot believe that is going to be the move.
I guess it's possible that he thinks that those guys are going to develop into better players over the course of a year, being in the system and like going through your second, third, and fourth year with a team and improving consistently. I think that that's the general theory of the practice. And the hope is that those guys maybe one of them pops to be even more than just a minimum level signing. Maybe one of them pops to be one of your future starters. Like, let's say it's Julian Strawther. Like, could you see him taking over in the future for somebody on your roster? I think that's the theory. I don't believe it. And that's why I was critical of it. But I understand why he did it. I just don't agree with it for obvious reasons.
Yeah, and I just think that, again, Ron, this is I'm truly trying to take my Nuggets hat off here just because I'm trying to be as objective as I've always been in basketball. You do not have generational players and have iffy players around them and they go win multiple rings. Doesn't work that way. LeBron definitely didn't have that. Jordan definitely. Duncan never happened. You don't win 5 titles, 4 titles, 3 titles, even 2.
Yeah.
When you got those, Isaiah Thomas, they had Mark Aguirre coming off the bench in 1990.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Like, so this is what I'm trying to tell y'all. Like, I want people to get this. My philosophy is always going to remain the same. I'm going to be as hard on Nikola Jokic as I have to be. Remember, I said he wasn't good enough in games 1 and 2. I was hard on him. Everybody was like, "You're the best in the world. You expect that?" Oh, Swipa. Is it really? No, you don't get to wear a generational crown and not show up. And then he proceeded to dominate. But the issue is, Ryan, is like Jamal Murray. You got to know where you at. Michael Porter. You got to know where you at. Aaron Gordon, KCP, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Michael Malone, Calvin Booth, the Kroenkes. You got to know where you at. This is the responsibility. This is what comes with the territory. You can't say, "Oh, we got a 3-time MVP. We got the generational player, best player in the world." You don't get to then supplement that with Hunter Tyson, Jalen Pickett, and Julian Strawther and call it, hopefully they develop. Nah, that's not the way NBA history works.
Yeah.
I'm telling y'all. So tap in. If this is the most critical I've ever sounded, then I'm not trying to be critical for the sake of being critical. I'm bringing it to reality, Ryan. You do not win multiple titles with that strategy.
One of the things that I think sort of changes this perspective, and like everybody's going to be like, "Swipe was 100% here. He's great. He's awesome." I think that one of the things that changes that other generations, other teams never had to deal with was that this CBA is now penalizing teams for being competitive, for being good,
right,
for being pricey, for having a bunch of awesome players on their team. And like Denver is going to be put in a headlock by this CBA because of how they like have structured their contracts. Because of like I put this out to you before the podcast started.
Yeah.
152 million of Denver's salary this year was tied up with the 5 starters. 26 million was given to the other 10 guys. And that includes like players like Zeke Naji and Reggie Jackson, who even made like $9.5 million. So even beyond that, like it is so difficult at this point, and the penalties are so heavy and so painful that like the Nuggets are going to have to make some tough decisions, and they may not be able to keep this group together and like have the actual depth that you're talking about.
I get it, but look at what I told you. I told you this already this year, though, Ryan. Nikhil Alexander-Walker got a $4.5 million deal. You told me the Nuggets they couldn't. So this is what I mean. Even if you couldn't,
I agree with you, man.
But even if you couldn't give him, I get it. Yeah. But a couple of second-round picks they're playing 4.5. You think they would rather have a first-round pick later? No, that's stupid. I'm doing it. Then on top of that, what's DJJ making right now for the Mavs?
I think it's the vet minimum.
Vet minimum. I also remember saying something about DJJ. PJ Washington, throw in. Change their team. I know the contract. I know the contract and stuff is for PJ. It's like 48 mil.
Like what else? These other players, like Denver just had their starting 5. They had their championship. How much actual role could Calvin Booth and the Nuggets have actually promised to those guys on vet minimum contracts, where instead like a guy like in Dallas, like Derek Jones Jr., hey, you're going to have an opportunity to maybe even start, man. You're going to have an opportunity to be a real contributor. You're going to have an opportunity and like on a bigger stage to make the most money that you possibly could. Kelly Oubre Jr. going as a minimum contract guy to the Philadelphia 76ers. Dude, you may have an opportunity to start this year. We don't know how it's going to work out. You may have an opportunity to start and make some big money with us. That's the thing that people will just say, okay, yeah, you could have gotten this veteran contract. You could have gotten this veteran contract. Like, there's no guarantee of that because Denver's starting 5 was already locked and their roles were already locked. How much actual playing time, especially with a guy like Kelly Oubre Jr. or Derek Jones Jr., when Calvin Booth was already like the commitment was made that Christian Brown, Peyton Watson.
Then why not up Jeff Green's money to at least $4.5 million instead of the vet minimum? If you're concerned about the rotation's going to be the same, we need to retain players that are going to be able to fit this system. So what I'm saying to you, this is where I think we drift. Because if that's the case, they could easily just kept Jeff Green and said, all right, we'll pay you a little bit more money.
I disagree because he actually got $8 million from Houston.
I thought it was 6.
No, he got $8 million a year.
But even in that situation though, you don't think that if they were in that situation, they could have paid him more money since they had 2 years on him. So what I'm saying to you is that if you're going to go that route of saying, well, we need to make sure we're locking down our rotation. Let's see, Jeff Green, 2024.
Here's the thing. We can talk about this in hindsight, but I remember the conversations that we were having of like, yeah, hey, Jeff was probably the least essential member of the rotation. The hope is that you can replace him with Peyton Watson, Vlatko Čančar, Zeke Naji. And I think that was a logical decision. Honestly, I do. And Denver has this youth that like, this is honestly, and this is the major thing. If you're a championship team, if you're a championship caliber team, the thought process always with all of these teams is you try to retain your most important players. Other teams poach your lesser important players, and then you have to find a way to replace them. Maybe Denver didn't replace them in the way that they were supposed to, and I can totally agree with you that like trying to go get somebody more defensive like a DeLon Wright or an Nickeil Alexander-Walker or a Derek Jones Jr., that was the logical step. They did get Justin Holiday, but I do think that they should have done more for obvious reasons. Like committing to so many younger guys was a problem, but we're talking about 1 or 2 roster spots here as opposed to like the 3 that they decided to go get rookies for. And I don't blame Calvin Booth that much for that. I think that there are some decisions that he could have made that were better. But
remember, we were arguing for a while, Pascal or MPJ. We've had those conversations. There's even some, if they swung Jamal Murray opportunities, but I don't think they're going to come out for many different reasons. But
that was more of a fit thing with the Pascal versus MPJ thing, though. Like Pascal's clearly a better player, but fitting him and Aaron Gordon together with Jokic, it was going to get a little clunky.
I mean, yeah, I think here and again, the first onus why they didn't win Game 7 is them. The starters were not good enough, but the starters were also collectively gassed from the run before, and then by the end of this year, because they had to be they played so many minutes together this year, and including with Jamal Murray not being healthy for 23 games this year. I think my whole thing is that Murray 18-4-4 in your second round. That's Austin Reeves numbers on way worse efficiency. That's not good enough. At the end of the day, if you're going to play, and I'm giving him every excuse, he's hurt, calf injury, 1,000%. But 18-4-4, I don't care who it is. That is unacceptable. If he plays an average series, they win the series. But the problem is that he was hurt, and I think some of that is because he just didn't have enough behind him. I think Reggie cool and all that stuff, but I just think that there was a lot of pressure on him and his body. And when he just didn't have it, he probably could have missed more games last year. Then obviously to push to the end of the season and everything else. So, it's just it's a lot of different things that kind of all happened at once. And again, MPJ played 81 games this year, and I don't think MPJ was tired in the second round. I just think he got clamped up, and then his confidence got shook, and he started missing everything.
Yeah. True Teller asks and has been belligerent. Can Nuggets get Batum? Please answer. Batum said he was going to retire after this season. So, like, maybe. I don't know. Like, he said he was going to retire.
Does he have a ring?
It was going to be his last year. So
he doesn't have a ring. He doesn't have a ring.
He doesn't. So he might decide that he wants to. But, like, Sixers, I mean, if they go get Paul George or somebody like that, then you add that into the equation. Then, like, maybe Batum just wants to stay where he was. Like, I wouldn't. That team would be, I mean, okay, fuck this. I would love to get Nicholas Batum. Let's just leave it there. Last couple of things before we hit a break. Any other points from the presser? Let's talk about KCP's free agency, actually. That's probably the next one here. From Calvin Booth, quote, KCP's been a great addition the last couple of years. Obviously, we'd love to have him back. We're going to take a hard look at what that looks like. I don't know what that looks like. And like I've talked about the CBA concerns and getting into that second tax apron. We've also talked about whether, like, could Denver's starting lineup get cheaper and then they add a little bit more money to their bench? Could that be a thing that they try to do with Christian Brown? Because he was the one who was discussed as a potential starter. I'm not sure if that's the way that I would go, but I think
Christian Brown replacing KCP would be a drop off.
Maybe not as far as you think.
Oh, no. I'm not doing this. Offensively, would be a huge drop off. No. They will completely change the offense. No. Not yet. He's not near as good of a defender yet either, by the way, just to be clear.
I think you're probably right. I'm trying to think about it from the perspective of if Christian Brown comes back a better player, like we think that he could, coming from a second to a third year, if he's a better shooter, if he's a little bit better as a ball handler, just kind of refining some things, I can see the theory of it. I don't actually believe.
Okay, so now we're going to go another year into Jokic's age 29 season on hoping that a prospect develops at a key spot in your fifth best spot on a potential championship team. That's a lot. That's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. It's like, hey, yo, we're in danger territory here. This is hubris. Like this is us thinking we're outsmarting the system. I'm telling you, Ryan. Again, I'm very much a believer in process and development, but I'm also a little bit of a numbers person as well. And I'm just saying the odds say that's not going to help you win a championship doing that.
Here's what the thing says. The odds say that the Nuggets will never win another championship ever again.
No, you're doing too much. You're going too far on the other end. If you have the best player in the world, Ryan, your odds are higher than everybody else in the league relative to NBA history.
Okay.
But he ain't going to acknowledge that. You see how Ryan do? That's crazy.
Christian was the best defender on the best offensive player on the opposing team in that last round. Like
you said, Christian was?
Yeah.
Not even the best offensive player.
He was the best defender on Anthony Edwards.
Oh yeah,
in this last round.
Yeah, and Christian got muscle.
Yeah, like that's not going away, and like KCP is also getting older, and I can understand why the Nuggets might think, "Hey,
that's one matchup."
You don't think that would carry over into other matchups?
No, Christian Brown was not a better defender versus guards on totality over the year than KCP was.
Okay.
Screen navigating, chasing, staying connected off ball. Christian Brown would have got flamed by Steph Curry.
I don't disagree, man. Like more of what I'm talking about is how the Nuggets it's how they have to gear up to win the next championship. Like how can you do it? How can you find a way? And I think that one of the ways that they might decide to go is they might decide, hey, with our fifth starter, we could take a little bit of a step back in order to improve our bench, in order to spend a little bit more money on the bench. I'm not sure if that's even possible, but like if they could get under the tax apron a little bit and then spend some money to add some offense for the bench, might not be the worst idea in the world. Because if you really do have Murray, Porter, and Joker, shouldn't those guys be able to carry most of the offense in that starting five?
If only Jamal Murray was a guaranteed 70-plus a game player, and on top of that, you knew for a fact he was going to go into the playoffs healthy, yes, sure.
Doesn't it make sense, by the way, to have more offense coming off the bench so that you can replace him if that becomes a factor?
And who would that be?
I don't know.
Anthony?
I'm talking through. We can talk about different strategies. This is a theory. This is me talking through the theory of it.
No, I'm responding to your theory in kind, and I'm saying to you the theory that Christian Brown is going to step into a lineup at age in his third year and be a good enough replacement for KCP, and then subsequently you're going to spend another $4 million on whoever else that apparently Calvin Booth said is going to be Jalen Pickett, by the way. He's not sold on him being a veteran. Well, he's talking about the young guns. He said they just need more seasoning. He literally said they need some more seasoning.
What if I told you that the Nuggets could get Alec Burks on the taxpayer MLE? Does that change anything?
No.
Okay. All right. Obviously, Denver's hands are pretty tied. Like, I've already made the case in an article that everybody can go read at Mile High Sports that the Nuggets are at their best if they just run it back.
Wait, who did Alex? By the way, are you talking about the same Alec Burks I'm thinking about?
Yeah, the one who was awesome in Game 7 against the Indiana Pacers. Yeah.
You know how many minutes he had played in the playoffs prior to that? Like 14 minutes total.
Yeah, because Thibs is a madman.
No, because he's not better than Deuce McBride. That's why. And then they got several injuries, and then he was able to play.
I think he's better than Deuce McBride.
No, he's not better.
man.
Are you kidding me? This is right up there with your Jalen Green Shingun take, by the way.
By the way,
No,
Jalen Green,
no.
pretty good to end the season.
Yeah, 1
man.
month.
Pretty
1 month.
Pretty good. You just remove
Had
that big old
a
fulcrum in the middle
9-game
of the paint.
stretch.
You take that fulcrum out of there, and the paint just opens up. Looks pretty good.
This will be the last show that Ryan and I will ever do together.
There was an argument for it. It wasn't a good argument, but there was an argument. Okay, so
I had MVP candidate Domantas Sabonis over a lot of players, by the way. So I was also proven correct.
I can't believe Sabonis made All NBA. Actually,
why?
But like
he was top 10 MVP voting. Why?
I thought that Jaylen Brown was better for one thing.
Well, no, Hallie should have been off. Remember, I had Hallie off, Jalen on.
Hallie was on.
No, I had Hallie off, Jalen on, and Sabonis on.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess I can believe it. It's like when you remove some of the competition with the 65 game rule, that's what's going to happen.
It should have been all international this year. If Embiid plays 65 games, it's going to be all international first team All NBA.
That'd be dope
next year.
That'd be dope.
Yeah, I'm sure you would love that anti-American over here. All right, go ahead. Next subject.
Me anti-Domantas Sabonis? Like, okay. That Gonzaga motherfucker. Okay. Any final thoughts on the presser before we hit a break?
I don't love the energy, but I think Calvin is fooling everybody again. I think he's going to get a Bruce Brown KTP swap out of nowhere again, and it's somewhere along those lines.
It's going to have to be magical. It'll be very interesting to see if they can leverage.
Who has more chemistry, me and you, or Calvin Booth and the free agency market?
Definitely Calvin Booth. Come on, what are we? Let's be fucking honest here. Everybody, hey, let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to chat about what Swipa and I would each do if we had the keys to the Denver Nuggets front office. We will be right back. But first, I want to tell everybody a little bit about number 38, the home base for Denver Nuggets, Colorado Avalanche, and going forward, probably Colorado Rockies and Denver Broncos watch parties with Mile High Sports. We did some stuff with Denver Stiffs over there. It was a lot of fun, great food, great vibes, outdoor environment. The outdoor patio area was pretty sick. You should go check it out. Make sure to go over to number 38 in the Rhino District. All you got to do is pull up, tell them that Mile High Sports sent you, and you can get a $15 pitcher. Would be great. Thank you so much for checking it out. We'll be right back at Pickaxe and Roll. All right, back at it. Pickaxe and Roll. Ryan Blackburn here. This is the Weekends with Swipa edition, joined by my guy Swipa on the other side. Let's talk about this darn offseason. We've gone through all the different problems and some of the things that happened over the course of this last year with the Nuggets, the way that things were handled last offseason and how that kind of had some ramifications. So, Swipa, I'm going to ask you, if you were given the keys to run the team right now, what would be the first thing that you did? Or the most important thing that you did?
Probably finding a competent backup point guard that for sure can play with and without Jamal Murray and make sure I never put that amount of pressure on him ever again. I mean, I that was my responsibility last year. So I would have that wouldn't even be a question. Jamal Murray had his best season of his career with Bruce Brown on the court. Oh, wonder what that was. Wow. We fortified Jamal Murray to take all the pressure off him as an on-ball player, off-ball defender, on-ball defender, and all he had to do was shoot the ball and play defense sparingly on the other end. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about Jamal here. First out, not even a question. I don't understand. Right. So I'm telling you, sometimes people overthink stuff. Jamal was just spectacular because Bruce was next to him. He just didn't have the same amount of responsibility.
There's a lot to that. There's a lot to that of not like Bruce was the jack of all trades for Denver in so many different ways. One of the ways, like even beyond on the court, was he was just an off the court like energy guy. somebody who could, like, you could rely on him to give you the momentum and give you the motivation and the energy to deliver. And I think that if Denver does add somebody like that, they need it to be somebody who is like not boisterous or anything like, but just somebody that has some personality, somebody that has some like belief and some like want to, and is just like that's one of the things that I think was missing from this year's team was the attitude of like, we're going to kill you. There was none of that at all. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it. So I think that's a great call from Bruce. Do you have any ideas? Do you have any candidates on who that would be?
Shout out to my boy Harrison Wynn. I love Harrison. We have a really great relationship. He's a really good dude. He's one of the best at what he does. Harrison Wynn posted up a
yeah, all white team.
yeah, Harrison Wynn posted a 10 fake trade for the Nuggets for Bogey, Josh Giddey, Steven Adams, Corey Kispert, and Misic. And you know, I do think that some of those players will be okay. But I do think Jamal needs a little bit more defense next to him. So Bogey would be great. I just don't think Atlanta's trading Bogey personally. But I do think that, like, again, Nikhil, Chris Dunn. I'm going to be so angry, Ryan, because I know exactly what's going to happen. Chris Dunn to the Denver Nuggets for a $2.5 million a year deal, and throw in piece for whatever else. I'll be like,
where the hell was this last year?
I told y'all for a whole year. And then Chris Dunn, watch, Chris Dunn's going to have a 10-10-10 game. Everybody's going to be like, where was this? Where was this? I'm just,
won the Super Bowl.
Exactly. I told y'all this would have been. So I think easy. Just even Chris Dunn, that's a throw in. Let me see what Chris Dunn's money is right now. I don't even know if he has a
I think it's like a $3 million contract or something like that.
Chris Dunn, 2-year, $3 million.
They can afford it. But hey, this is the other thing, man, is that when you go, like, he got that opportunity from Utah like the previous year at the end. And then they're like, hey, we can give you an opportunity to compete for our starting point guard spot. Like, you could be our starting point guard.
No,
I think he got sold for that. I think he got sold. And I think if he has an opportunity this time around, he's going to be a little bit smarter.
No, he's not going to. He didn't get sold on anything. They had a top 10 pick. Keontae George was coming. Okay, number one. And then number two, they already had Colin Sexton. No, you didn't get sold on anything. He got an opportunity with them.
Yeah.
But again, this you asking me, why are you talking to my segment, by the way? You asked me a question.
This is called conversation. This is called dialogue. It's crazy. But
no, I think Chris Dunn. Who would you? What do you think is the most important thing? Because I feel like you might be leaning a different position than me.
I think that the most important thing is to retain KCP. I do agree with you that that's where they should be trying to live. And then you just look around at the rest of the roster and think, okay, Reggie's on a player option. We'll see what happens there. You've got Christian, you've got Julian, you've got Peyton. Those are your three wings. Those are your versatile wings. And I think they should be trying to find ways to play all of them. Whether they can play all of them, I think, is a question mark. To me, it's the 5.
Yeah. I mean, I know, but this is where. And
that's the thing. Is like the only name that you can really come up with is Andre Drummond. Is like somebody of that nature where
they're going to empty the clips for him.
Say it again.
You think they would empty the clip for him? I mean, the role player clip for him?
Yeah, the minimum contract that they can shell out. Like, that's the thing. Is like that's all that they can offer. So the only thing that they can do is unless they get KCP to take such a hometown discount that it's possible. I don't think that they can do anything unless they trade Zeke Naji for nothing, which involves sending out some assets with them. Unless they, like, we got Munn in the comments who was giving plenty of signals that he would like Nick Richards from the Hornets. Nick Richards would be great. He also makes $5 million, and Denver could find a way to match that. But like, it's hard. It's hard to find some of these guys that actually make sense.
Kyle Anderson's an unrestricted free agent. Would that be worth something for you?
I mean, he'd be a depth piece. I would only add him at a minimum. That would be the only, like, I couldn't add him. I couldn't justify adding him for more than that because he is like he does add some playmaking a little bit, but he also is like a spacing drain on what you're doing. And you already have Christian Brown and Peyton Watson with your starters. And then if you add another, or with your bench, and then if you add a center in there, then like there's just no spacing at all.
Andre Drummond made $3.3 million last year.
Yeah. Like
why would they not trade him? What are they doing?
Because Chicago sucks at what they do.
I mean, honestly, why would you keep him?
We know this. Chicago,
they could have got like a first for him.
Yeah. So
for $3 million?
According to the reports, they were holding out for 3 second-round picks. And I don't know if they got that offer or not. Because here's the thing, like teams know how important or unimportant centers are. Like it's like you get your top 40 guys or so, but outside of those guys, it's tough. So I think that Drummond, if they were to add him, he would be helpful in terms of like, hey, you're going to just like take away some of Jokic's heavy minutes. You're going to start in place of Joker whenever he sits. That would be a good idea if they could find somebody like that. Kelly Olynyk just signed an extension with the Toronto Raptors. If I were Denver, I would try to go find like a Zeke Naji, maybe even Julian Strawther and the 28th overall pick.
Now this could be something. I mean, it won't happen. But hey, since you're all in on this, we might not need KCP, Ryan Blackburn. That's what you're doing. Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk, Zeke Naji, KCP.
That would have to be a sign and trade because KCP would need to sign with Toronto in order to make that happen. I don't think it's possible. I don't think that he would do that. Like in theory, sure. But like, here's another one. Here's one that I had floated. Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, and a first-round pick for Michael Porter Jr.
No,
not
even close. No.
So you get your important 6-man back. You get
and who's starting?
You could start either Bruce or Christian or Peyton in that situation. I think you could make cases for each of them.
So go smaller.
A little smaller, yeah.
A little smaller.
Yeah, okay.
And lose
if you're starting
top off-ball shooter in the league.
Yeah.
And a help side defender. That's what I'm saying. You're losing a lot. No, I'm legit saying the Nuggets' whole asset is the spacing, the rotation defense, and then the size and rebounding. You would lose all 4 of those things, get some rebounding back, wouldn't get the spacing back, wouldn't get the size, and then rotationally, like there's just no Bruce Brown MPJ verticality. Like
I do think that you lose one of the holes in the rotation as because Mike was kind of targeted defensively a little bit. He also really struggled on the offensive end. And if you're just like, if you think that he's going to struggle in those moments on the offensive end going forward, then you're going for a more defensive minded guy.
Imagine what they would have done to Bruce Brown though, playing off of Bruce though, like in this Wolves series.
Sure. Yeah. It would have sucked. Like, I don't disagree, but Denver also might have held Minnesota down even more.
The only way that works, Ryan, if Peyton Watson is able to start at the 3 next year.
I think
he elevates.
True.
That's the only way that would work. If you're sold on that, like Peyton's going to be an all defense dude next year and he's going to hit 36% of his threes, cool. Then I can understand it.
I will also say, by the way, that Christian did close for Mike on several occasions during that series and did a pretty good job.
And they lost.
Oh, not the games that he closed.
Didn't he close game 4?
He closed game 4 and game 5.
Well, didn't he close game 7 too?
He
didn't.
Ultimately came off the floor and they went with their starters.
Mm-hmm.
And then the starter.
Bro. You know, I think some of this is like, if you want to get off your contract because you just feel like 81 games isn't happening again, then okay.
And that's the thing is like, I'm not trying to be hard on Mike or anything like that. And I've got some other Mike trades that I could throw out there in terms of like, does this make sense or not? But I think the problem that you run into is Denver's made this determination that their starting 5 is going to take up a bunch of their money. That's just how this is going to be. And that's how they're running things. The only other way that you can change that is you could do 2 things. Because you're not giving up Murray, you're not giving up Gordon, you're not giving up Jokic. That's the fundamental identity of the team. You could lose KCP and spread out the money that he's making onto bench guys, or you could trade Michael Porter, get back a worse starter, and then improve the bench. That's
Bogey and DeAndre Hunter. For somebody offer MPJ for Bogey and DeAndre Hunter, then yeah, like that's a different conversation.
So that's another trade that I threw out there in the article. Like, it's not the dumbest thing ever.
We know you're a great writer, Ryan Blackburn. You got to keep plugging it. We know you're an all-time great writer. We get it.
Okay, let's do this now. Let's do this then, because this is the theory of the practice. And I guess we could probably save this for a future episode, but I know the chat is probably rearing for that. Michael Porter for Andrew Wiggins and Kevon Looney.
Are you asking me this?
Yeah, I'm asking you to think about it.
I mean, I can see why. I'll say that. I can see why.
Yeah.
I can see why. Well, that's all I'll say. I can see why they would do it. If you're telling me Wiggins is going to hit at least 38% of his threes again, then sure, he's a great defender. Kevon Looney, Warriors fans loved him for a while, and then they hate him again.
Yeah, because they're comparing him to Draymond Green. I think that there's theory in that, like, you get worse at your starting small forward, and then you get better at your backup center.
Oh yeah, 5 ish. Oh, I saw. That's what I said. I can see why. So you would have to have a huge bounce back.
He was horrible. Like, there's no doubt about it. He also makes $10 million per year less.
All-star starter, by the way. Respect.
Kyle Kuzma and one other piece, whether it's a Landry Shamet or a Marvin Bagley or somebody, for Michael Porter.
Again, this is all about like the money. Do you just not think Porter's going to have is he not going to be healthy enough or whatever? Then, I guess. Go ahead.
Here's where I'm at with Porter. I don't think he's ever going to be a 22 per game kind of guy. I don't think that's what he's going to be anymore. I think in Denver's offense, I think that he is going to be a player that opposing teams are going to load up on, but he's going to be mostly a spot-up shooter. He's going to be a DHO threat, and his offensive game is always going to be kind of limited based off of how Denver runs their team, based off of the Jokic-Murray two-man game, the theory of the practice with Denver's offense. I think that he's always going to be kind of limited. And so maybe the best opportunity is to get somebody else who is limited and to try to improve your roster in like around that. And maybe the person that you add is a slightly better defensive player. That's the only thing, man. I really don't have this vendetta against Michael Porter, but just with as much as I've been looking at the cap sheet, as much as I've been looking at what Denver needs and how they lost, like, I think that there is some logic to it, which sucks. But I've also said and wrote the piece that Denver, their best course of action is to retain everybody, is to keep everybody together. So kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth here, but I think that there's arguments for both sides.
Yeah, I kind of don't love, not you, but just the idea that Porter is the one that's like gonna take the blame for it. I think for this, it's more so like, situationally, what's the easiest way to upgrade your roster?
Right.
So I mean, I can understand it. I just think that I just think that the Nuggets need to add a sixth player. I don't think the thing that they don't need Porter to do that. Yeah. Again, I just don't buy the excuse of Calvin Booth not looking at their landscape and saying, I just think he underestimated what Jamal Murray actually needed. We said that last year. Like, Reggie Jackson is not a player that doesn't even make any sense. And it didn't work all year. Yeah. So then you had to put more onus on Jokic and then more onus on Murray.
Reggie had some good moments in the playoffs, but I do agree.
He did. Yeah, he did.
They need somebody who's more stable, and they need somebody who's more versatile. And that was always the thing. And I don't think you're getting that with Jalen Pickett. You're certainly not getting it with Colin Gillespie. So they need another point guard who can probably do that. I do agree with that. Let me pivot a little bit. I've got another couple questions here. How much more contribution can the Nuggets expect from Zeke Naji and Vlatko Čančar next year? Because they didn't get anything major value this year.
I don't want any more injury-prone players. I know CT loves Vlatko, and I love what CT has to say about the game. Vlatko's been so hurt. Like, he was great the year before, had some really good minutes and all that stuff.
He's had a couple long-term things, but like tearing your ACL, I don't ever consider somebody injury prone if they just randomly tear their ACL. It could happen to anybody.
Sure. I just think that he's on the team because Jokic obviously wants him there. So they're good friends and everything else. But like I said, like at this point, we're not really about friendships. Like you need a little bit more Jordan in you. Like,
no,
I'm not here to make friends. But you already have enough friends. You have plenty of friends on the team. You got friends in the city. You got your family, you got your brothers, you got everybody else. Like, I think Zeke especially, bro, like there's just no justification for having a $9 million on a very limited team sitting on the bench, and you cannot play him. And if he pops somewhere else, then really good for him. He has the talent to do it. But you also need another big you can play next to Joker that can space the floor. Zeke was supposed to be that. That's what his vision was the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And that has gone. It's gone.
So what's interesting about the way that the roster is currently laid out, like the cap sheet at this point, KCP, Reggie Jackson, they have the player options. DeAndre Jordan, Justin Holiday, those guys are unrestricted free agents. The young guys are all under contract if you want them to be. It's the veterans that are all kind of like we're going to try to see what happens here. I think that you're right. And the conversation that we had earlier about how Denver needs more veterans, how they need more players that they can rely upon, there's going to be a problematic balance there because the guys that are actually under contract are the young players. Denver, they're going to need to find some veterans that can help them, but are also on short-term deals that are also very cheap. And it's going to be really, really difficult. But that's why I ask about Vlatko and Zeke, because they are under contract. Vlatko has a team option, so Denver could decline it if they wanted to. Let me ask you this. The young players that are not Christian Brown and Peyton Watson, how much contributions can the Nuggets expect from Julian Strawther, Jalen Pickett, Hunter Tyson, and the 28th overall pick in this year's draft?
So let me get this straight. So that's Jalen Pickett, 30, 32, 33, pick 33?
I think 32.
And then Hunter was 37?
Yeah.
Julian was 29.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like you can get contributions from guys that are outside.
But again, we're still playing the odds on the unlikely happening. I just don't like that.
Yeah.
When you have the best player in the world, you can do that sometimes, but doing that 4 times, you
don't need to go 4 for 4. If you go 1 for 4 or 2 for 4 in that case, that might be enough. Like honestly, like not everybody on the roster needs to be able to play, but you need one of those guys to hit, 2 of those guys to hit. And so I'm asking you, like, what are the odds?
Which 2 you think are most likely to hit?
I think it's probably Julian because he's already played. And like he was first round pick for a reason. He's a guy that they have on a first round salary. I think that the theory of that is very good. I am underwhelmed by Jalen Pickett. I am underwhelmed by Hunter Tyson, certainly. I didn't really understand the pick when they made it. Those guys are so limited.
Wait, who was on the board? Andre Jackson in them too at that point?
Yeah, Jordan Walsh, Andre Jackson. There are some names that were available there that Denver could have gotten. And players that I think made more sense for what you would expect from a team like Denver at that point. Gigi Jackson was there, although he was like an 18, 19-year-old. Tumani Kamara, who played pretty well for Portland this year. Trace Jackson Davis, older guy who made a lot of sense, I think. I thought that was a name that they probably should have gone for. Like it just didn't make a lot of sense. But it's going to be interesting to see because as I kind of go through this, like Denver is still tying up a lot of roster spots into players that you may not think are helpful. So that puts a lot of pressure on the other decisions for sure.
When you said, Gigi Jackson, but that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out, bro.
He was the youngest player in the draft, though. I understand why Calvin Booth was
I get it. But the Nuggets have shown that, like, the more athletes you have on this team, the better. Jalen Pickett isn't an elite anything. He's cool. He's a good dude.
He's an elite passer. I think he can make passes.
Maybe we'll see if that works. I know what elite passing looks like and not athleticism. They have to be stars to be really good players. But he ain't Chris Paul. Maybe we'll see. I don't think it's Chris Paul. John Stockton, like Kyle Lowry, like those players. Go ahead.
No, I was looking at the draft. Like Andre Jackson Jr. went 36th, Hunter Tyson went 37th. They may have decided that they wanted Jalen Pickett, But Andre Jackson
Jalen
Jr.
would have been there though. I don't know if he would have been taken off the board by that point.
Yeah, I think you're certainly right. And maybe he decided that was like one of those other teams would have taken him, but I don't know. It felt like Denver reached in both of those cases, and it felt like from my perspective, the problem wasn't that they drafted those. Actually, the problem wasn't the guys that they drafted. The problem was the fact that they drafted at all. Mm-hmm. That they spent 3 draft picks rather than going for more veteran options. As you mentioned, I do agree with you that was where the missteps happened in my mind.
But remember, Calvin got all the love. He made a trade during the NBA Finals, and everybody was like, "Man, he's going for it," and all this stuff. And I get it, like he deserves it. But again, like I think a lot of this is like just making sure that the Nuggets had like 1,100 minutes played between their starters this year. There needs to be. They need more flexibility in their lineup, and you need it at the guard spot, and you need it at the center position.
Yeah,
because they have it at the wings. Now it's about finding your Bruce Brown. And then finding a real backup center that the Nuggets have not had since Boogie Cousins or Isaiah Hartenstein in spots or whatever. Like it's just or Mason Plumlee. Like they just need an actual like player there. And again,
and like the excuse can't be made that like you're not going to play somebody like that because you have Joker. Like you have to play them. Like it is a requirement in order to get Joker to the playoffs healthy and ready. Like I think that was one of the other things that was said at the presser. Denver's got to take care of Joker. They can't play him this many minutes going forward. Like he's got to play less. Joker's got to accept that too. Like he was tired at the end of it too. So I do think that
I think he was more tired in that situation because he was caring for the entire team for 2 rounds, and Jamal wasn't what he
believe.
He usually has those pops from Jamal. Like we're like even game 2 of the Timberwolves series last year. 40 points for Jamal. And Joker's kind of able to be like, all right, cool. Like, I got to settle, whatever. I don't have to do it. He didn't get any of that this whole run.
He got 32 from Jamal on 28 shots in game 5 of the Lakers series. That's
sure.
Like, that's a lot of usage taken up. That's a lot.
But that's 2 games, though, is what I'm saying. That also is not sustainable for, I think, a big.
I agree.
A big always needs a guard next to them.
Beyond anything, like, we could talk about all these different moves. The one thing that if you think that Denver's going to retain their starting 5, that starting 5 has to be the best in the league or has to be really close.
Which it was.
They were for the first 82 games of the season. And then the playoffs hit and they were not. Mm-hmm. So I think that more than anything has to be addressed. I think that Jamal he's the key factor there for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. I think that Jamal has to be an all-star next year. That would be my challenge to him.
I don't think he will be though.
Okay, that's fine. But
I think I said he can be 13 All-NBA coming to this year.
I think he's got to go try to do it. I think he's got to be out there. I think he's got to take this regular season more seriously and with more attention to detail.
Oh, he's 27 years old, and I'm not trying to be hard on Jamal because I never come in Jamal's neck. I'm not going to try to do it now. But Jamal, you're 27. Like you're not a kid. Like if we're still pushing you to take 100% seriously, take your body seriously, to take the court stuff seriously, not throw heat pads on the court and all that stuff. Nobody's discounting you're NBA champion. You're one of the best at what you do. But at the end of the day, and this is what I mean, Ryan. I'm being 100% here because I've covered for Jamal all year. Ryan, when that whole thing happened in the press conference, the way he answers questions, watching the MMA fight, all that stuff, throwing the heat pad on the court, all that stuff, that's all cool. The reason people put up with it is because of the on-court stuff. You have to live up to that. If you're going to act like a superstar, you got to play like a superstar. Because guess what? Luka got his own moments and all that stuff. Luka played like a superstar. From game 1 to the end of the playoffs. SGA, he don't say nothing. He don't bother nobody. He respectful to everybody. Take care of everything. Superstar. MVP conversation. Jalen Brunson answers questions directly. Great relationship with people. 82 games all the way through the playoff with no OG, no Julius Randle, none of them. Plays like a superstar. Steph Curry, no issues. Answers questions. Great in press conferences. Superstar. Ja Morant. People say whatever they want about Ja. Ja might got some off-court issues with this and that. Ja Morant in press conferences, cool. Locked in. 82 games, locked in. Playoffs, locked in. So what I'm telling you, this, and I'm being 100% right about this, because you never heard me talk like this before. But I'm telling you that if you are going to have the air of being one of those type of players, you have to, from game 0 to the end of the playoffs, be able to do it and do it consistently. That is what makes you you. Because at the end of the day, Ryan, and this is why I always tell people, Joker is the best player in the world because game 0 to the end of the playoffs, he always is there and available. Don't mean every game, Ryan, because every game you're not going to have the same energy. That's not the way it works. Jordan didn't do that. Magic damn sure didn't do that. And Kareem definitely didn't do it. But guess what? Kareem wasn't a great interview either. Because Kareem he didn't want to trust the media. He want to talk to media. He definitely didn't trust the white media because of all kinds of stuff. It was the 1970s, bro.
Sure.
But when it came to playing 33 and 15 every day, and you knew what time it was. So what I'm saying to you about this whole thing with Jamal, you've been walking this line. And even me, I put you top 20 last year. You've been walking this line because you play next to Joker. And my whole thing is you are one of the best players in the world. And I will defend you in your game and everything you do. And I rock with Jamal. Everybody know how I feel about Jamal. But when you get to this point, though, bro, you telling me you getting 18, 4, and 4 in the second round when your best player got 29, 11, and 8 and getting this dog tail whoop. And every time somebody bring up the series, they ain't going to bring up Jamal Murray. They might mention you, but they're going to blame Joke for not getting the job done. And so what I'm telling you is like, bro, like if you're going to carry yourself like that, which I don't think you should, I don't think Ryan deserves that. I've told you this to your face. I don't think you deserve to be talked to sometimes the way it is. But what I'm telling you is that if you're going to be that, Devin Booker don't respond that way. No, none of these dudes do that, Ryan. All the stuff you see, I know what I've heard something about Devin, but you just get in the press conference. I've seen these players. I've watched them. There's just a way you got to carry yourself on the court. And so what I'm saying to you, bro, is like he been getting kind of a not a pass, but it's definitely like it's nut up time, Ryan. That's what I'm telling you. Like you about to be 28 years old this year. And you got one All-NBA, one MVP, one All-Star, and your second best player in all of the last 30 years when you got a player in the GOAT conversation. LeBron had Kyrie. Say whatever you want about Kyrie. Luka got Kyrie. Say whatever you want about Kyrie. Say whatever you want about Scottie Pippen. Top 50 all time. Locked in. Say whatever you want about Shaq. Lazy. Locked in. Say whatever you want about Kobe. Locked in. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. And if you're going to feel like that shoe, because remember when somebody asked him, do you want to be an All-Star this year? He said, I'm an NBA champion. I'm something most people will never be. That's true. But guess what? If you are doing what you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to be, we ain't even having the conversation because we're still playing. So that's my whole thing with you, bro. I'm not even trying to be like heavy on nothing. But I'm just telling you, like, if I'm taking my Nuggets, Denver, Park Hill, 23rd, my whole life hat off, like I done been here through the grind, through the gutter. Robert Pack, everybody. I watched Antonio McDyess get traded to the Knicks. Was pissed. Nick Van Exel. I've seen it all, Ryan. I've been here. But I'm telling you right now that you get to this spot next to an all-time great player, you got to know what you're supposed to do, and that's just what it takes. So, Jamal, you're right. He should be an all-star next year. He should be a 25-5-5 player. But since 2016, you've never seen him live up to that in the regular season. And me and you, we defend him because we know his 20 is better than basically everybody else's 20 except for maybe 7 players in the league. That's simple.
Wow. That was a rant.
And I got love for Jamal.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. There are a couple things I disagree with there. Most of it is like, it's straight facts. That's what this is. Jamal has been resting on the laurels a little bit of winning a championship. He took the pressure off of himself. He should be trying to be an all-star. He should be trying to be out there and be available and be as dominant as he possibly could be. There's a balance that he has to sort of ride between getting everybody else involved and making things for himself. But I'm with you. Like, that can't hold you back.
But I told you that, Ryan. Remember when that whole thing happened in the press conference, MMA video, everybody saw it. It was public. It's public information.
Yeah, I was there.
When that whole thing happened, I told you, yeah, he reminded me of a receiver. That's what receivers do in the league. That's what Randy Moss does. But guess what? Randy Moss, they all pros. Terrell Owens, all pro. Jamal.
It was disrespectful as hell. That's what it was.
And then you throwing heat packs on the court. And then the next day, when they ask you about it, I don't want to talk about that. Let's move on. You got any basketball questions? Nah, no. You know who the only person that gets to act like that and to not have that kind of resume is you. Because Denver's cool. Denver loves the players. We love our team. You in New York, you in LA. D'Lo can't even breathe. Can't even breathe if he has a stinker. Think about a Jamal average 18-4-4 next to LeBron James in LA.
Yeah, it'll be hell. He's got to be better. Like, he has to challenge himself. Like, he actually has to have that motivation to challenge himself and be the best version of himself. Because if he's not, then he's holding the team back. Like, straight up. The team has been ready. The team needs him to be
$50 million, Ryan. He about to get a 4-year, $200 million deal.
Yeah, $200 million. It's going to be the same that Donovan Mitchell got. And Mitchell has been better than him throughout his career.
Mitchell could have made first team all, second team all NBA this year if he would have qualified. Mitchell had a 45 piece versus Boston or 50. What was it? 53? 50? How many points did he have versus Magic? It's 50 something. It was like 50.
50. I think 50.
And that's by himself. Jared Allen wasn't even there in the Boston series.
Yeah. And like, Jamal can't rest on his laurels. Jamal's got to constantly try to get better. And I think that this was the wake-up call that he needed. If I'm being honest, like, I think that he and everybody on the team thought that they were going to breeze or just ultimately find a way, just get it done. And when you don't get it done and when things don't work out well and you are sitting at home and it sucks and you hate yourself, like, you got to look inward. You got to look at where you could be better. And he had a great game 7, but he also gassed out as well. Like, he had 29 through.
Jalen Brunson left Luka, never made nothing, never been nothing. Went to New York. All of a sudden, he's an MVP talk. Well, that's what I'm telling you, man. Like, you got to take stuff personal, Ryan. Like, I'm watching all this stuff happen. I watched Jokic go down with the ship. Like, I'm not letting it happen, Ryan. If you told me right now, Swipa, I need more from you. Swipa, you got to be better. Swipa, I'm carrying the content moments. I'm carrying my high sports by myself. If you said that to me, I would literally spend the entire summer locking into the gym. I wouldn't be the same player come next year. The same content creator come next year. That's what you got to have. That's my whole thing. Ain't no way. Joker got 3 MVPs, and I ain't got an all-star. I ain't never got an all-star. There's no way. There's no way. No way. No way it's happening. No way. I'm playing with a 3-time MVP. I ain't got an all-star on my roster. No, Ryan, no way you gonna outpace me like that. There's no way. I'm not selling on that. No way. No way. No way. You finna have a conversation with me and another dude for top 10. No way I'm letting that happen. No way.
Is there any way, Swipa? Is there any way?
I'm telling you, bro. Ryan, I'm like that. Now, everybody joke around, like, but I'm telling you, football is different. Like, it's mano-a-mano. If I suck, it's on the eagle eye. Everybody see it. If I get ran over, everybody see it. If I miss a tackle, everybody see it. There's no way that I'm going to keep letting this happen where when I'm getting in these situations, everybody looking at me funny. Jokic putting up crazy numbers, all playoffs. Now everybody looking at him like he's silent. There's no way I'm going to let my dog that I've been around since 2016 and I'm watching this go down. I'm not just doing it for one game. I'll tell you that much. There's no way. And again, I get Jamal Murray was hurt. But what I'm telling you, regular season, you ain't got to worry about it. I'm locked in. I'm locked in. Joker, you've been carrying us the last 4 years. 4 MVP seasons.
Cedric, there's not going to be a Murray for Mitchell swap.
Unless Donovan says I'm not signing, absolutely, and Nuggets give them the best trade package they can get.
Which
that's not what's happening.
They will not. Like, that will not happen because that's the thing, is that Murray doesn't have a bunch of trade value. He's on an expiring contract now. And I guess if he agrees to a deal, but like, why would you do that if you're the Cavs? Like, you've got Darius Garland and Jamal Murray trying to play together, and you've also got Evan Mobley and Jared Allen trying to play together. They need to get wings, man. They need to get size. They need to get athleticism. They're not going for Jamal. Like, Mitchell's a better player than Jamal right now. That's pretty simple. So I don't think that's something that's happening. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Calvin Booth, you got a job to do. Yeah, I expect you to do it. Like, all that other stuff about young guns and all that. Cool. That's not one ear out the other for me, but that's what we're looking at. So the NBA top 75, that was after Jokic won his first one, so it's going in there. So that was 2022. So we are in 2023, 24. This is year 77. There's 77 years of the NBA. You're trying to do something that's happened maybe 4 to 5 times. I'd be one to bet. And winning championships. No. I'm not doing it. I'm not betting my money on that. You might be an outlier, but I'm not betting my money on that. I'm not letting Jokic go into the year, and I'm not like the team on the bench is just way different. Not happening.
Team has to be better. They got to make changes, but they probably shouldn't make too many changes because they've still got the best starting 5 in basketball. But those guys have to be better too. Like, it was on the starters that they lost. It was not on the bench that they lost. It was on the starters that they lost in the playoffs. Those guys have to be better. And the bench has to be better in the regular season in order to give them the rest that they need. So we'll see what happens. I'm very curious. We're going to have plenty of discussions over the course of these next couple of weeks before trade season and draft season and free agency actually happens, but should be very fascinating.
Into the second round, we're doing trade offseason talks.
Hey, man, can't win a championship every year.
Nah, stop it. Up 20. We didn't even talk about that. Up 20 in the third quarter. You can't close out your home.
I don't know what you're talking about. Like, did something happen?
Up 20 in the third quarter, and everybody choke out, and everybody looking at Joker like, please save us. Like, again, I know, I get it. The defense was incredible, but oh yeah, and Michael Malone didn't do a good job in that series either. He got out coached.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many strings.
Who asked him that question, by the way, about at home in the fatigue or whatever? And he said they're down 20, and then he said something about like the series is over. We lost the series.
Oh, that was Bennett Durando of Denver Post. They made up.
No, I know they made up, but this is what I'm telling you. When Nick Wright, I told him before the show, Nick Wright brought up this whole thing about Jokic owns the penthouse. He brought everybody up to the penthouse, and Malone and Murray living in the penthouse, and they thinking they own the penthouse. I agree. They deserve all the respect and credit in the world. I would never take that. I think Malone is one of the top 4 or 5 coaches in the league, if not higher. He's great. But Malone got outcoached. You don't lose by 32 and 45 in the same series and not get outcoached. You're up 3-2, and you're up 20. You got outcoached.
I honestly don't think it's those games that were the big deals. I think it was the ones that they lost in the clutch. Like
game 1 and game 7?
Yeah. I think that those were the out-coaching ones.
No answer for Naj Reid, Cat, and Mike Conley in the second half of game 1. They were 17 of 19, Ron.
Yeah.
And then they don't have Rudy, and they're playing a blitz scheme versus Joker in them, and the whole team freaked out.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a good Malone series.
He's had better ones. That's for sure. He had a pretty good Lakers series.
Yeah, good Lakers series, good Heat series, good Lakers series, good Sun series, good Wolves series. He was on fire the year before.
Sometimes pressure makes you crack a little bit. Denver hadn't faced a bunch of pressure until this series.
Jokic twice
talking about
in that Wolves series started the second quarter twice. I was like, first time I got it. But no, first time they were down. I think they were down 12 or whatever going into the second quarter in game 6. And so he started him in that game. And then Jokic went out, I think 9, then came back in. It was like an 18-point deficit or something. Game was over. But he did that in this last game. It worked. But I'm saying, bro, a minute rest for Joker, that's panic. And then he didn't take him out at all in the third quarter when they were losing. They just panicked. Everybody panicked. Everyone panicked.
Yeah. I don't think it would have been better if he had rested, if I'm being honest.
Well, I just think that if he had 3 or 4 minutes more rest, I just think he could have had more energy, but defensively, more so than anything else.
Yeah. I think Denver would have collapsed in those non-Joker minutes.
I agree. I would just rather have Joker fully fresh going into a 4, but he had 15 in the 4.
But then you got to make up a deficit at that point, and that's just these are difficult decisions that every coach has to face. And if I'm Malone, I probably make the same decision that he did. I was like, I'm going to leave the best player on the floor out there.
Yeah,
I'm going to leave the best player in the world out there. Sorry.
But this is what I mean about competent number 2. Because guess what? Lucas sucked in the first half. It didn't suck, but he wasn't good in the first half game 1 versus Wolves. But you know who took over and said, I got you. Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, Jamal's going to be falling down some of those top 100 lists. That's for sure.
Oh, he's going into the 30s after that.
Maybe not the 30s, but
no, he's going into the 30s.
Probably low 20s. Or high 20s, I guess.
Well, I'm saying, bro, but you Kyrie was clearly better this whole year.
Yeah.
And Kyrie was, most people's 25th best player, 26, 27.
Yeah.
That's tough. I don't know what to tell you, Jamal. You are in control of that.
Okay, we got to save some of this content.
We've got plenty of time. We ain't talking 2 weeks, so whatever.
I know. We're gonna get more videos up, bro. Come on. We'll spoil for the audience. We are going to get some videos up.
I can't believe this dudes were up 20 and lost, Ryan.
I can, honestly. I think they were gassed, man. That's we'll talk about that too. Everybody,
I'm telling y'all better be thankful to God. I mean, honestly, I want the 6'6" with elite handle and all that other stuff. I would have been in the league barking. Never would have stopped either. Barking. Y'all thought y'all should see me on the football. I was loud all the time. I'm walked in ready, Ryan.
In real life, Swipe was 5'6", like all
Right,
bark,
exactly.
no bite. Like,
Exactly.
it's wild. Like I don't
5'6".
understand it. But he pulls. Like I get it. Like good for you, man.
We're swiping Ryan over to Murray and Jokic, best 2-man game. Let's go. Let's get it.
You already know, baby. Everybody, that is going to do it for this episode of Weekends with Swipe. Appreciate everybody for hopping in here. We went long, needed to go long because we hadn't talked in a little bit. We're going to get up some videos. We're going to talk a little bit offline. We're going to record some things, and we'll have some individual questions that Swipe and I will be answering throughout the offseason as well. If you've got any content ideas that you want us to answer, any trade ideas, we'll probably do some trade ideas in a video as well. Let us know what you want to see. We're going to put out some great content. Any final thoughts, my guy?
Second half of Game 7, third quarter, we need to stop. I'm getting to stop. I'll just say that much. I'm not afraid of that.
I am not getting a stop. That I will say. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show. We appreciate all the love and support. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Would obviously appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys very soon.